The city was already stirring when Sophie Carter arrived at her usual spot on the bustling downtown sidewalk. Dawn had barely broken, and yet the street was alive with anticipation and purpose. Sophie's small folding table, set up at the edge of a busy intersection, bore a humble sign, "Original Art, Funding My Cancer Treatment." Each brushstroke on her canvases told a story of courage, each vibrant color a declaration against despair. At just 17 years old, Sophie carried burdens far beyond her years. Her delicate hands, once steady in the pursuit of artistic perfection, now trembled from both the ravages of chemotherapy and the weight of life's relentless challenges. Every day was a battle, a fight against an insidious disease, a struggle to keep her family afloat amid mounting medical bills, and an internal war against the creeping sense of invisibility. Yet, despite the exhaustion and the fear, Sophie's art shone as a beacon of hope, a way to communicate the dreams and pain that words could never capture. Before the diagnosis, Sophie's world had been painted in the soft hues of childhood wonder. She remembered afternoons spent in a sunlit attic where her mother's old watercolor set and blank canvases were treasured gifts. It was in that quiet space that Sophie first discovered her passion, where colors blended into dreams and each stroke carried a whisper of possibility. Back then, her paintings were joyful explorations, joyful experiments that captured rolling fields, brilliant sunsets, and the shimmering reflections of city lights. But life, as it often does, changed in an instant. A few months earlier, a single sentence from her doctor shattered her innocent world. "You have cancer." In the sterile corridors of hospitals, amid the hum of machines and the muffled beeps of monitors, Sophie began a grueling regimen of chemotherapy. The treatments took their toll. Her hair fell. Her spirit clung fiercely to a single truth. She was more than her illness. Every canvas she completed became both an escape and a battle cry, a silent refusal to be defined by cancer. At home, the struggle was equally fierce. Her mother, once radiant with endless optimism, now juggled long shifts at a local diner and the ceaseless worry etched on her face. Her father, whose calloused hands had once crafted toys and shared laughter, now worked late into the night, piecing together odd jobs to cover the ever-mounting bills. In whispered conversations over cold cups of tea in the quiet of the night, they wondered how long they could keep fighting against a system that seemed indifferent to their pain. Yet, even in those dark moments, Sophie's resolve grew stronger. If her art could bring in even a small amount of money, perhaps it could buy her the time she needed to fight, and maybe, just maybe, change everything. This particular Saturday, the sun hung high and unrelenting in a clear blue sky. The streets were filled with the sounds of everyday life, the rhythmic tapping of heels on the pavement, the cheerful strumming of a street musician's guitar, and the indistinct murmur of conversations as people hurried about their day. Amid this vibrant urban symphony, Sophie's stand was a small island of vulnerability, a collection of canvases, each one a riot of color and emotion, leaned against a folding table with a modest sign pleading for help. For hours, Sophie endured the passing indifference of the crowd. People brushed past her with polite nods or distracted smiles, too absorbed in their routines to notice the quiet warrior standing before them. Each potential sale was a fragile lifeline, a chance to keep the next round of treatments at bay, a promise of more time to chase dreams on canvases. Yet, as the morning gave way to the scorching heat of noon, exhaustion began to gnaw at her. Her water bottle, once a refreshing source of relief, sat empty on the table, a silent testament to her fatigue. The day was a long one, measured in moments of hope intermingled with heartbreak. Every fleeting interaction with a passerby left its mark, a sympathetic glance, a half-hearted inquiry about her art, a casual "how much?" that barely registered before the person moved on. But Sophie clung to those sparse moments like precious jewels, each one fueling her determination to persist. Just one painting, she repeated in her mind like a mantra. Painting is all I need to keep going. It was during one of those long, arduous hours that something unexpected happened. Something that would alter the course of Sophie's day and, ultimately, her life. Amid the relentless stream of indifferent faces, a man paused at her stand. He was different from the others, quiet, observant, his dark eyes scanning her canvases with a focused intensity. For a long moment he did not speak. He simply moved slowly from one painting to the next, his fingers lightly brushing the textured surfaces as if absorbing the emotions embedded in each piece. Sophie, who had been lost in her thoughts and fatigue, barely registered his presence at first. Her heart, so accustomed to fleeting moments of hope and despair, began to flutter when she noticed the way his gaze lingered on one particular painting. A haunting depiction of a starry night, where a solitary figure stood beneath a vast cosmic sky. It was as if the painting held the weight of the universe, echoing her own feelings of isolation and determination. Then, in a moment that defied the ordinary, the stranger reached into his jacket pocket. Instead of offering a few crumpled bills, he pulled out a checkbook, a relic of a bygone era, incongruous in the age of digital payments. For a heartbeat, Sophie was paralyzed by disbelief. Who would carry a checkbook in this day and age, and why would a man choose to pay by check when most transactions were instantaneous? Her eyes widened as he scribbled something on a piece of paper, then tore out a check. When she glanced down, her breath caught in her throat. The check was drawn on Elon Musk's name, and the amount written was an astronomical $50,000. Time seemed to slow. The bustling street, the indifferent crowd, the relentless heat, all faded into the background. All that remained was the surreal, almost unthinkable scene before her. Elon Musk, one of the world's most renowned entrepreneurs, standing at her humble art stand, offering her a lifeline in the form of a check. Sophie's hands trembled as she reached out to take it. In that moment, the check was not merely a piece of paper. It was a promise of hope, a tangible affirmation that she was seen, that her art, and by extension her struggle, had meaning. For Elon Musk, the act was both spontaneous and deliberate, a quiet intervention in a world that often overlooked the small and the vulnerable. He had been walking along the sidewalk, lost in thought about the relentless pace of innovation and the seemingly endless challenges of pushing humanity forward. In a city where everyone rushed to catch the next big opportunity, Elon had come to appreciate the beauty of a pause, a moment to observe and understand the quiet stories unfolding around him. When his eyes landed on Sophie and her paintings, something stirred inside him. Here was a young girl, barely 17, grappling with forces far beyond her control. Her art, full of raw emotion and honest beauty, spoke of struggle and hope in a way that no grand technological breakthrough ever could. It was a story of resilience, a story that resonated with the very core of his own journey. In the past, Elon had faced setbacks that seemed insurmountable, a string of failures, a world that doubted his audacious dreams. Yet, each failure had been a stepping stone, a lesson in perseverance. Today, he saw in Sophie a reflection of that same fighting spirit. Without a word, he selected the painting that had captured his attention, the starry night that evoked both mystery and melancholy. In his hand, the checkbook materialized like an answer to unspoken questions. As he scribbled the check and handed it over, his eyes met Sophie's. In that look, there was no pity, no condescension, only a deep, sincere understanding. "It's not charity," he murmured gently. "It's an investment in hope." For Sophie, those words were like a lifeline thrown across a chasm of despair. Her mind raced. Was this real? Could someone of Elon Musk's stature truly believe in her art? Was this check a mistake, or a moment of pure serendipity that would rewrite her future? Tears welled in her eyes as she clutched the check, its crisp paper a stark contrast to the rough edges of her worn-out canvases. In that instant, the world seemed to pivot around her. The crushing burden of medical bills, the endless fear of failure, the solitude of her struggle, all began to lift, if only slightly, replaced by a spark of possibility. Almost immediately, the magic of that encounter began to ripple outward. Onlookers, previously oblivious to Sophie's quiet battle, began to take notice. Phones were raised, and within minutes a video of the extraordinary transaction was being recorded and shared across social media. The caption read, "Girl selling paintings for cancer treatment gets surprise of a lifetime from Elon Musk." As the video spread like wildfire, Sophie found herself thrust into a spotlight she had never sought. A spotlight that shone on her pain, her art, and the extraordinary kindness of a stranger who had believed in her when she felt invisible. At first, the surge of attention was overwhelming. People crowded around her stand, asking questions, offering congratulations, and sharing their own stories of struggle and hope. A middle-aged woman in designer sunglasses brushed her fingertips against one of Sophie's paintings, a vivid landscape that evoked both beauty and melancholy, and whispered, "This is incredible. You have such talent." Others offered more practical support. Local business owners began ordering prints of her work, and donations started pouring in from all corners of the country. In a matter of hours, Sophie's small act of selling art had become a beacon of hope for thousands. What had begun as a solitary fight against cancer was now a communal celebration of resilience. News outlets soon picked up the story. Television stations, online news sites, and even major newspapers featured Sophie's journey, all highlighting the life-changing moment when Elon Musk had stopped to see her art. In interviews, people marveled not just at the generosity of one of the world's richest men, but at the simple, undeniable truth that one act of kindness could change the course of a life. Sophie's story resonated deeply. It was a reminder that in a world often dominated by grand ambitions and towering achievements, sometimes the most profound change began with the smallest gesture. In the days and weeks that followed that fateful encounter, Sophie's life was transformed in ways she could hardly have imagined. The $50,000 check covered her immediate medical expenses, ensuring that her chemotherapy treatments could continue uninterrupted. But more than the financial relief, it was the cascade of support and recognition that truly altered her course. Sophie began receiving letters and messages from strangers, words of encouragement, offers to help, and countless expressions of admiration for her courage and talent. Her once solitary art stand evolved into something much more. It became a symbol of hope, a gathering point for a community that spanned far beyond the confines of her neighborhood. Local hospitals reached out, offering discounted treatments and support services. Art galleries and cultural centers expressed interest in showcasing her work. And social media campaigns sparked discussions about the need for greater compassion in the face of adversity. For the first time in a long time, Sophie felt that she was not alone, that her struggle was shared by a vast network of people who believed in the transformative power of hope. As the viral video continued to circulate, Sophie was invited to speak at community events and participate in fundraising drives for cancer research. Though still frail from her treatments, she began to reclaim a sense of purpose. In interviews, she spoke about the importance of never giving up, of believing in one's own worth, even when the world seemed to have forgotten you. "I used to think I was invisible," she once confided in a quiet moment with a reporter, "but now I know that even the smallest light can shine brightly enough to guide us through the darkest times." And then there was the personal connection that had come full circle, a video message from Elon Musk himself. In that intimate, unscripted message, he spoke directly to Sophie, urging her to keep painting, to keep fighting, and to never lose sight of the dreams that had brought her this far. His words, delivered in a tone that was both warm and sincere, resonated deeply with her. "Keep making the world brighter, Sophie," he said, his voice gentle yet unwavering. "Your colors matter. They matter more than you can ever know." Those words became a touchstone for her, a reminder that she was not defined by her illness, but by the strength and beauty of her spirit. As autumn approached and the leaves began to turn, Sophie's journey took on a new dimension. What had started as a desperate attempt to fund her treatment evolved into a full-blown movement, a movement fueled by art, resilience, and the belief that every life holds an intrinsic spark waiting to be ignited. The local community, inspired by her story, rallied around her. Neighbors organized art walks, local charities set up exhibitions of her work, and even high school art classes dedicated projects to capture the essence of hope and perseverance. Sophie's home, once a quiet space shadowed by the relentless hum of hospital machinery, was gradually transformed into a sanctuary of color and creativity. Her bedroom walls, bare and sterile during the worst of her treatments, became a gallery of memories, a collage of photos, handwritten notes, and framed pieces of her art that symbolized the journey from despair to hope. Every stroke of her brush now carried the weight of her experience, and every finished piece was a tribute to the countless souls who had supported her along the way. In one particularly poignant moment, as she prepared for another round of chemotherapy, Sophie found herself reflecting on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought her to this point. Sitting in the quiet of her room, she recalled the day on the sidewalk when Elon Musk's check had shattered her world of isolation. That moment had not only provided financial relief, it had reawakened a belief in the inherent kindness of humanity. It was a moment that proved that when someone stops to notice, even the smallest voice can echo into the hearts of many. A few months later, a historic opportunity presented itself. Sophie was invited to exhibit her work at a prestigious New York City art gallery. The exhibition, titled Hope in Color, The Art of Sophie Carter, was to be a retrospective of her journey, a celebration of life, resilience, and the unyielding power of hope. The gallery's expansive, softly lit space was transformed into a living narrative of her struggle and triumph. Each painting was displayed with care, accompanied by a small plaque that detailed the story behind it. The centerpiece of the exhibition was the Starry Night painting that had once caught the eye of Elon Musk on that busy street corner. Now it hung prominently on the gallery's main wall, illuminated by a gentle spotlight. The plaque beneath it read, "Loan by Elon Musk, a token of hope." For Sophie, it was a bittersweet reminder of a moment that had altered the trajectory of her life. A moment when one man's belief had sparked a cascade of change that reached far beyond her own circumstance. On the opening night of the exhibition, the gallery was filled with visitors. Art enthusiasts, local dignitaries, fellow cancer survivors, and everyday people moved by Sophie's story. The atmosphere was electric with emotion. As she mingled among the crowd, Sophie received warm embraces and heartfelt thanks from strangers whose lives had been touched by her art. A young boy named Jamie, whose hospital stay had once been punctuated by fear and loneliness, tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Your paintings make me feel like I can dream again." In that moment, Sophie understood that her art was not just a means to pay for treatment, it was a catalyst for healing, a bridge connecting hearts across a vast, often indifferent world. Throughout the evening, conversations sparked about the intersection of art and life, about the transformative power of kindness, and about the courage it takes to face adversity head-on. Sophie listened quietly to the stories of others, her own experiences woven into the tapestry of shared human struggle and triumph. For many, her art had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even when faced with life's harshest challenges, hope can be a revolutionary act. As the exhibition drew to a close and the gallery's lights dimmed, Sophie found a quiet moment to reflect on all that had transpired. She sat on a bench outside the gallery, the cool evening air a soothing contrast to the warmth of the day's accolades. In her mind, the images of that long-ago street corner played out like a cherished memory, a moment of despair transformed by the power of one person's compassion. She thought about the countless rejections and indifferent glances she had endured on that sweltering afternoon, and she marveled at how, even in the face of overwhelming odds, a single act of kindness could alter the course of a life. It was a lesson in resilience, a testament to the idea that hope was not merely an abstract concept, but a tangible force that could ripple outward, touching lives in ways one could scarcely imagine. For Sophie, every new painting became a declaration, a refusal to let her illness define her, and a commitment to honor the support and love that had carried her this far. She began to experiment with new styles, blending bold, defiant strokes with soft, introspective hues that captured the interplay of struggle and beauty. With each creation, she poured her heart onto the canvas, reclaiming her identity not as a victim, but as a survivor and an artist with a story that deserved to be told. Even as Sophie's life began to brighten with the promise of new opportunities, the road ahead remained uncertain. Cancer was a formidable foe, one that would require continued strength and perseverance. Yet, armed with the support of a community that had come together in her hour of need, she faced each day with a courage that belied her youth. In quiet moments between treatments, Sophie would sit by her window, sketching the scenes of the city below, the faces of those who had cheered her on, and the landscapes that had inspired her art. These sketches were raw and intimate, a visual diary of her inner world where hope and fear coexisted in delicate balance. Each drawing was a reminder that life was fragile yet resilient, and that beauty could be found even in the midst of pain. Sophie's journey was not without setbacks. There were days when the fatigue of treatment was overwhelming, when the weight of uncertainty pressed upon her like a suffocating blanket. On those days, she would revisit the memory of that day on the sidewalk, the day Elon Musk's simple act of kindness had rekindled her belief in herself. It was a memory that fueled her determination, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was light to be found. And so, with every passing day, Sophie fought on, not just for herself, but for the countless others who believed in her, who saw in her struggle a mirror of their own hopes and dreams. One crisp winter afternoon, as Sophie prepared for another treatment, she received a letter from an organization dedicated to supporting young cancer survivors. The letter, filled with words of encouragement and an invitation to speak at an upcoming conference, acknowledged her remarkable journey and the inspiration she had become for others. It was a moment that brought tears to her eyes, a recognition of her strength and resilience that affirmed her belief that every struggle held within it the seed of transformation. At the conference, held in a grand auditorium filled with survivors, healthcare professionals, and advocates, Sophie took to the stage with a quiet grace. In her address, she recounted the day that had changed everything, a day when a simple act of kindness from a stranger had reminded her that she was not invisible, that her pain, her art, and her dreams mattered. As she spoke, the audience was captivated by her honesty, her vulnerability, and the unyielding hope that shone in her eyes. It was a testament to the power of compassion, a message that resonated deeply with everyone in the room. After the conference, letters poured in from people of all ages, sharing their own stories of resilience and thanking her for reminding them that even in the face of insurmountable challenges, hope could be a guiding light. Sophie's story had become a beacon, one that shone brightly in a world often shadowed by despair. In the months that followed, Sophie's art and her message of hope continued to inspire change far beyond her small hometown. New opportunities arose, collaborations with local charities, invitations to participate in national art competitions, and even a budding correspondence with influential figures who recognized the power of her story. Through it all, Sophie remained true to herself. Her art, imbued with the raw emotion of her journey, was no longer just a means to an end. It had become a medium through which she connected with the world. One afternoon, as she painted in a sunlit studio gifted to her by a local benefactor, Sophie paused to reflect on the incredible turns her life had taken. Every brushstroke felt like a conversation with her past. The doubts, the fears, the moments of despair, and with her future bright and unwritten. In that quiet space, surrounded by canvases that told the story of her struggle and triumph, she felt a profound gratitude for the kindness that had transformed her life. It was in these moments of stillness that she truly understood the transformative power of hope and the deep, abiding impact of one person's willingness to believe. Years later, as the seasons changed and Sophie's journey continued with its inevitable ups and downs, her story became a part of a larger narrative, one that celebrated the resilience of the human spirit and the power of unexpected kindness. Stories of her encounter with Elon Musk were retold in news segments, social media posts, and even in academic discussions about the intersection of art, health, and social impact. In interviews, Sophie spoke not only of her own experiences, but of the countless lives that had been touched by her art, the messages of support that had sustained her through the darkest times, and the community that had risen up around her in solidarity. A mural was commissioned in her honor in the heart of the city. A sprawling, vibrant work that depicted a young girl surrounded by a galaxy of stars, her eyes shining with hope. The mural became a landmark, a constant reminder that even in a world full of challenges, the smallest spark of kindness could light up an entire neighborhood. As passers-by paused to admire the artwork, many found themselves reflecting on their own lives, questioning the status quo, and perhaps inspired to extend a hand to someone in need. For Sophie, every day was a reaffirmation of the belief that art could heal, that hope could be contagious, and that even in the midst of struggle, there was always beauty waiting to be discovered. She continued to paint, each piece a conversation between her heart and the world, a dialogue of colors that celebrated both the pain of her past and the promise of her future. As time marched on, the legacy of that one transformative day, the day when Elon Musk stopped to see her art, grew into something larger than any one individual could have imagined. Sophie's story became a symbol of how a single act of generosity could alter the lives of not just one person, but ripple out to touch an entire community. The funds raised through her art not only sustained her medical treatments, but they also enabled her to set up a foundation aimed at supporting young artists battling serious illnesses, a place where hope and creativity converged to offer new opportunities. Through her foundation, Sophie connected with other young survivors, hosting art workshops and community events that celebrated creativity as a form of healing. She mentored aspiring artists, encouraging them to find strength in self-expression and to use their talent as a way to confront the challenges life threw their way. The foundation soon expanded, partnering with hospitals and community centers across the country and even internationally to bring art therapy programs to those in need. It was a legacy born out of pain, nurtured by hope, and sustained by the belief that every life has the potential to shine brightly, no matter how dark the circumstances. One crisp spring morning, as the city awoke to the soft chirping of birds and the gentle glow of sunrise, Sophie stood before a new canvas. The day was symbolic, a new beginning, a fresh chapter in a life marked by transformation. With her brushes in hand and a renewed sense of purpose, she began to paint a scene of vibrant rebirth. The canvas bloomed with colors that seemed to capture the very essence of hope: bold blues, gentle pinks, and shimmering golds that danced together in harmony. As the hours passed, the painting took shape, a sweeping landscape of a rising sun over a field of wildflowers, a symbol of the promise that each new day holds. In that quiet moment, as she mixed colors and let her emotions flow into every stroke, Sophie felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The memory of that fateful day on the sidewalk, the shock, the disbelief, and ultimately the kindness that had turned her life around, was etched into her soul. It was a reminder that every trial, every setback, could be transformed into a masterpiece if one only dared to believe. That morning, as she completed the final details of her painting, Sophie's eyes glistened with unshed tears, not of sorrow, but of joy and gratitude. She knew that her journey was far from over. There would be more battles to fight, more obstacles to overcome, but armed with the support of a community that had rallied around her and with the enduring light of hope shining in her heart, she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, and as the seasons shifted once again, Sophie's art continued to evolve. Each piece was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even when the odds are stacked against you, hope can emerge in the most unexpected places. Her work began to attract attention from collectors and art enthusiasts who recognized not only the beauty of her creations, but also the profound story behind them. Exhibitions, interviews, and invitations to speak at conferences became part of her new reality. Yet amidst all the accolades and the growing recognition, Sophie remained humble. In quiet conversations with those who approached her at gallery openings or community events, she would often speak of the simple truth that had guided her through her darkest days. When someone stops to see you, really sees you, it changes everything. It reminds you that you matter. Her words resonated deeply, and they served as a gentle call to action, a reminder to each listener that kindness is the spark that ignites hope. And then, in one of those rare, still moments that defied the chaos of life, Sophie received another unexpected message. It was from Elon Musk, a brief note of encouragement and gratitude that reiterated his belief in her talent and the importance of continuing to paint. "Your art speaks a language that transcends words," the note read. "Keep shining your light, Sophie, because the world needs your colors now more than ever." It was a message that, despite its brevity, carried the weight of a promise that no matter how far she might fall, there would always be someone ready to help her rise again. Years later, as Sophie looked back on the long and winding path that had led her from a quiet sidewalk stand to national recognition, she understood that her journey was never really about the money or even the accolades. It was about connection. The connection between a young artist and a man who had dared to believe in her. The connection between a community that rallied in support of hope, and the connection between every individual who had ever felt overlooked and the promise of a brighter future. In quiet moments of reflection, Sophie would revisit the memory of that day as if it were a cherished dream, a dream that had blossomed into a living reality. She remembered the look in Elon Musk's eyes as he handed her the check, a look that spoke of shared struggle and mutual understanding. She recalled the quiet determination that had carried her through the long hours on the street, the relentless hope that had sustained her through the darkest moments of treatment. And most of all, she cherished the way her art had become a mirror for the human spirit, a mirror that reflected the resilience, beauty, and strength that lay within us all. Her legacy, now interwoven with the lives of countless others, was a testament to the transformative power of a single act of kindness, a spark that ignited a chain reaction of hope, connection, and change. In every brushstroke, every burst of color, there lay a message that even when the world seems indifferent, there is always a chance to be seen, to be heard, and to make a difference. As Sophie's story continued to inspire others, a movement was born. A movement that celebrated not only the beauty of art, but also the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. People from all walks of life began to share their own stories of struggle and hope, inspired by the young artist who had transformed her pain into a canvas of possibility. Communities organized art festivals, charity auctions, and support groups, each event a tribute to the enduring power of kindness. Through her foundation, Sophie reached out to other young artists fighting similar battles, offering mentorship, resources, and above all, a message of hope, that no one was ever truly alone. "Keep painting," she would say, "because your colors matter. Every stroke, every line is a testament to your strength." And in that message, thousands found the courage to continue their own creative journeys marked by the same indomitable spirit that had once shone in the eyes of a frail teenager selling paintings on a busy street. Today, Sophie Carter's story is not merely a personal memoir of survival. It has become a beacon for anyone who has ever felt forgotten or overwhelmed by life's challenges. Her art, once a desperate bid to fund chemotherapy, has grown into a vibrant symbol of hope that resonates far beyond the confines of any gallery or city street. It is a reminder that the smallest act of kindness can set off a ripple effect, reaching out to touch lives in ways we may never fully understand. In every corner of the city, from the mural on a once-forgotten wall to the thoughtful notes tucked into public spaces, there are echoes of her journey. People pause to reflect on the power of compassion, on the way one moment of genuine human connection can transform despair into determination, invisibility into inspiration. And through it all, Sophie's legacy lives on, a living, breathing reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn is always waiting just beyond the horizon. As the sun set on another day filled with the promise of renewal, Sophie Carter continued to paint. With each new canvas, she celebrated not only her own journey, but the collective spirit of hope that had sustained so many along the way. In the gentle glow of the studio, surrounded by the colors of her dreams and the memories of those who had helped her along the way, she whispered a quiet vow: to keep fighting, to keep dreaming, and to ensure that every person who felt unseen would know that they too could shine. Her story, once a solitary struggle, had become a symphony of voices, a chorus of hope, resilience, and unyielding belief in the transformative power of kindness. And as she dipped her brush into a fresh palette of colors, Sophie knew that the journey was far from over. There were still many chapters to write, many lives to touch, and countless hearts to remind that even in the face of adversity, hope was the most vibrant color of all.